Hi, I'm Jimmy. In this video, we're looking at Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT. So we're going to run through the basics of Microsoft's business, look at some of the numbers, and then decide if Microsoft stock is worth buying today. Okay, so let's jump right in. So I'm actually going to go back a bit further in Microsoft's history, since Microsoft over the past decade or so has transformed itself, where they shifted primarily from focusing on like Windows and Office products to now cloud services, AI, and subscription products. To illustrate, well, this is a chart of Microsoft's revenue from 2005 to 2013. And we can see that back at this time, growth was solid. But what happens when we fast forward this chart to now include the most recent time period? So this is a 20-year chart. And we can see that clearly in recent years, they've really picked up a ton of speed. Okay, now, this will become much clearer as to why this is happening when we jump in and look at some of their individual business segments. So this is how Microsoft breaks up their business by business segment. And clearly they got a lot of different ones. So we're just going to run through them real quickly just to have a better understanding of what Microsoft's business is like. Okay, so let's kick it off at the very top with their devices business. Now this business only represents about 2% of revenue. But just to be clear, that 2% is about $4.7 billion last year. So again, this is a massive business that we're talking about. But this business primarily generates revenue from their service laptops and their tablets. It's mostly the physical products that they sell under the Microsoft brand. Okay, then we have dynamic products and cloud services. In essence, they sell subscription licenses or traditional licenses for companies to manage sales and customer data. Think of something that competes with something like Salesforce or Workday, things like that. That's what that segment. Then we've got their enterprise services segments. So here, Microsoft works directly with businesses to help them deploy and manage its software and software solutions, generating fees in the process. So that's essentially what this segment does. Then they have their gaming divisions. This is the orange pie within this whole slice, and this represents 9% of revenue. Now, this primarily comes from their Xbox products and subscriptions. Plus, bought Activision Blizzard at the end of 2023. So 2024 revenue, their gaming revenue had a big jump, and that's a bit more than 21 billion at this point. So that's a big piece of what they're doing. Then we've got their LinkedIn segment. So Microsoft owns LinkedIn, and this is a professional networking, call it a social media platform. And as we could guess, this is where that revenue goes. And we got a pretty big piece of the pie here. This is their Microsoft Office systems. And this is primarily Office 365 subscription revenue, plus traditional Office software licenses. So think of things like Microsoft Excel or Word or PowerPoint or Outlook, things like that. Okay, then we have Microsoft Search and news advertising. This is things like Bing or MSN related advertising. So whenever a company searches, kind of like Google, how they generate, revenue through ad spaces, they do the similar thing here. Again, not a huge piece of their business, but it is a piece. Okay, then we've got the big boy in their business in general. This is called their server products and tools. This is their intelligent cloud. Think Azure, and then they have their Visual Studio developer tool. But it's really Azure that generates most of the revenue. Now, this is about 40% of the revenue, but as a quick side note, many of you, I'm sure, have heard that Microsoft made a big investment in ChatGPT or OpenAI. But Microsoft actually doesn't own ChatGPT or OpenAI. Technically, what they have is a profit sharing agreement with OpenAI. So they get a cut of OpenAI's profits, but there's actually a cap on how much money Microsoft can take from OpenAI. So there's a cap on that profit sharing agreement. But of course, the real financial benefit for their investment in OpenAI is that Azure or Microsoft has exclusive rights that all ChatGPT hosting will be done through Azure. So that generates, as we can see, this is a massive piece of their business. And this piece of their business is growing fast and likely to keep growing as long as ChatGPT and other data cloud services continue to grow. This is the future of their business. And clearly, it's already very large. Okay, then we've got Windows. Now, back in 2010, Windows accounted for almost a third of total revenue. Back then, Microsoft, the Windows division put up about $18 billion in revenue. Last year, Windows put up about $23 billion in revenue. So an increase since then, but a much smaller piece of the pie because the pie has gotten so much bigger. And we can see a lot of this when we jump over and look once again at Microsoft's revenue. Now, back in 2014, the new CEO took over. And when the new CEO took over, one of the early shifts that they started to make was away from the traditional selling of their software. For example, instead of selling Microsoft Office or selling just Windows, they started doing subscription services. And since then, their business has grown a ton. In fact, 6 out of the past 8 years, they've grown by they've grown at a double-digit rate. Now, this is kind of crazy when you think about it, because generally, a company as large as Microsoft, a company putting up hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue, by the way, 281,000 here is actually 281 billion. So these numbers are in millions. But a company that large, it's difficult to grow at a fast rate. Generally, the larger you get, the more difficult it is to grow at a fast pace. Microsoft has somehow figured out a way to do that because of their transformation from selling their software business to really become a subscription business. Okay, now diving in and looking a little bit closer at some of the numbers, we're actually going to look at the Investors Grow Stability Score. So this is the stability score for their revenue. And basically, the higher the number, the better. 100 is the best. They're in the 90s, so this is quite good. By the way, the stability score is a way to judge how reliably a company can grow its revenue or profit. How consistently they grow from year to year. So in theory, if it's falling, obviously that's bad. But if it's even just stagnant, that score is not going to look nearly as good. We're going to compare this to Apple in a few minutes. But for now, let's jump over and look at their net income stability score. Once again, this number's in the 80s. This is a solid net income stability. We want a company to be stable because that tells us that they are stably growing their net income. Well, what about when we compare that to, let's say, Apple's net income stability score? Well, here we could see, when we look at Apple's net income stability, it was doing pretty good. But in the past year, it kind of dropped off. Now, we might wonder, well, why might something like that happen? Well, for that, let's look at net incomes for Apple's actual net income. Well, this is their actual net income. And we might notice that recently, over the past few years, Apple has gotten impressively stagnant. And this is a real problem, and this hurts their score, which is why we saw the net income stability score for Apple pull back. But for Microsoft, it kept climbing. So we jump in and look at Microsoft's net income. Well, this is what generates a score in the mid-80s. Doesn't go up every single year, but it has consistently, over the long run, gone up. In fact, over the past decade or so, they've had 2 different years where net income has dropped. I think that's one of the important parts about not getting too short-sighted with our analysis. Not one single year of a pullback is not necessarily a bad thing. But if you can look at the broader trend and say, well, broadly speaking, the numbers are looking like they're climbing higher. Well, that's quite good. Okay, now let's jump in and look at a broader flow of funds for Microsoft stock. So this is Microsoft's this is their income statement from the past year. And the idea here is that we will follow the green bar. The idea is that you can see where money's being spent along the way. And you can look at different steps. Start with revenue, look at gross profit, look at operating income, look at net income, go right down the line. Where are they spending different amounts? A lot of times it's very helpful to see how they compare to other companies. You can compare to these 2 of these side by side. But in the case of Apple, but in the case of Microsoft, we're going to compare it to Apple in a second. In the case of Microsoft, we can see that they end up with 36% profit margins. This is very good. But what happens when we were to compare Apple to Microsoft? Apple's on the left, Microsoft's on the right. This is just how much money they're keeping along the way. Well, we can see that Apple actually has way more revenue. If you look all the way at the top, Apple actually has way more revenue than Microsoft has. And as we follow this all the way down, we go to net income. Well, net income, just looking at the base numbers, Microsoft's net income is almost as large as Apple's net income, despite the fact that Apple started with significantly more revenue. Well, that's because when we add over their profit margins here, well, Microsoft's profit margins is at 36%, while their net income profit margins at 36%, while Apple's is at 24%. By the way, 24% is an excellent profit margin. If you think of a company like Walmart, they're sitting in low single-digit profit margins. This company sitting at 24 is great, but Microsoft's is really doing well And we saw that they are doing that while growing their revenue. So clearly, all the signs are right now pointing to the fact that Microsoft is a high quality company. Okay, now let's shift over to how Microsoft could return some capital to shareholders. First thing I like to look at is their dividend. Do they, in fact, pay a dividend? Not all companies do. Not necessarily says a company is a great company or not. Berkshire Hathaway doesn't pay a dividend, but they are a great company. But we can see Microsoft's dividend is, in fact, they increase it every year, and they do pay a fairly consistent dividend. They have for many years now, which makes sense. They have a ton of cash, so that kind of makes sense. But if it means anything, their dividend yield is actually a bit under 1%. So not a screaming dividend play, but they do, in fact, pay a dividend. Now, another way that a company can return capital to investors is through stock buybacks. Now, this is their diluted shares outstanding. Diluted shares are basically a company might issue employee stock options. And so they have some shares out there that could hit the market, but they're not officially on the market yet. This includes those shares. So it includes all the shares on the market and what potentially could hit the market. And to make this a little bit easier, let's zoom in. Let's change the y-axis a little to zoom in a little bit and just see what the actual trend is. And we can see this is the shares outstanding. So we want this going down, which means that they are making the entire pie, how many shares out there, smaller because they're doing stock buybacks. So between their stock buybacks and their dividend that they're paying, they're returning some capital to investors, which as an investor, this is a good thing. Okay, now with that in mind, and probably partially thanks to the pullback in the stock market recently, well, this is a chart of Microsoft stock over the past year. And we can see that Microsoft stock year over year is down about 7%. Now, if we're curious, from the high, it's actually down about 16% from the high back in July of 2024. So this makes, to me, the stock even more interesting from a value investor standpoint, because if we can buy a great company, all of the underlying fundamentals point to this being a great company, and the stock is down a decent amount. Now, with that being said, let's jump over and look at the fair value of the stock. So first, we're actually going to look at their PE ratio. And we can see that this is a chart of their PE ratio. And right now, the blue line, the dark solid blue line, is Microsoft's PE ratio going back the past decade. Right now, the stock's trading at about the same level as their 5-year average. The fair value is at 386. The current stock price as of the shooting of this video is about 390. So slightly overvalued, but give or take about fairly valued. Now, if we were to look at the other two PE multiples, the stock looks a bit overvalued. And then when we jump in and look at a discounted cash flow calculation for Microsoft stock, well, we can see that Microsoft's fair value shakes out to be about $280 per share. This, by the way, these projections, we're going out 10 years of free cash flow projections, and we get a fair value of about 280. Well, jumping back to the PE ratio, comparing the two valuation methods side by side, and the discounted cash flow PE multiple falls right in between the 10 and 20-year average, give or take, right around there. So it looks slightly overvalued using the long-term PE multiples, but also discounted cash flow. But it's about fairly valued using the 5-year PE multiple average. So for me, I've actually got two different investment portfolios. I have my long-term buy and hold strategy. I recently did a video on that. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. I already own Microsoft there. I bought Microsoft back in 2022 when tech stocks really got hurt. And I bought it at about $229. So given where it's at right now, I'm doing fairly good. But in that portfolio, I'm fairly strict about I will only buy stocks that are trading at a great value. So at the time, Microsoft looked great, but I'm not sure the stock's actually going to fall anywhere near that level again. So with that in mind, I started a second portfolio where my primary focus is looking for great companies that ideally are not, screaming sky high from a value perspective. That, for example, I wouldn't want to buy a stock that's up, let's say, 100% over the past 12 months or something. But a stock like Microsoft, where the stock is down 7% over the past year, but the fundamentals are still doing very well, and all indications on the fundamentals will continue to do well. Well, to me, that this stock becomes very, very interesting from a value perspective. Right now, it's trading at about the 5-year average. So I do intend on adding Microsoft stock as the very first holding in the high quality stock portfolio. That being said, I am buying Microsoft within a few days. I like to give everybody a few days after I do my research. That way, everybody has a chance to kind of do their own research and can see what's happening and see if there's something that they want to invest in as well. So I'm going to wait a couple days. Then I'm going to buy Microsoft. I'm going to make it a full position. My target is to buy about $2,000, give or take, worth of Microsoft stock. Besides that, if you have any ideas for other high quality companies I could do deep dives on, please let me know in the comments below. And if you're curious to sign up to get access to the Investors Go website, where we try to make it quick and easy to value companies, do research, I will leave a link for that in the description as well. And thank you so much for sticking with me all the way to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.